Hi, I'm Ciara.
And I'm Chris.
And we're from Aureol Global Connections. Today we are going to talk about how employers can tackle the skills gap in 2025. So Chris, what do you think the skills shortage looks like in the sectors that we currently work with?
Well, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Since my time at Aureol especially, and I'm sure you've seen it yourself as well, the skill gap is a never-ending beast. You think it's in one industry, and everyone you speak to seems to have exactly the same issue. So I don't see it as an industry-specific issue. I find it's more of an economy-based issue in that every industry that seems to be tapping into everyone we're speaking to at the moment anyway, and that's across Ireland, across UK, certain mainland European countries, everyone we're speaking to is suffering with the same problem. And that is a skill gap top to bottom, industry-wide. I know you've been with Aureol longer than me, and you've probably seen a fair few industries in yourself over that time period. I mean, which ones do you think have been probably the most prevalent over the last few years? I mean, since you started anyway.
Yeah, I think our bread and butter from the start was normally like your standard welder, fabricator roles. I think when we first started Aureol Global Connections, there was a massive skills gap there. All clients that we were speaking to in that first few months were all struggling with welder fabricators. Like you said, I don't think now it's just welder fabricators. The skills gap is huge.
Yeah, look, I think fabricators and welders haven't gone anywhere. I'm still speaking to people on a daily, weekly basis that are constantly looking for welders and fabricators constantly. I think the trades in themselves, those that are maybe considered a bit of a lost art to some, I'll get back on that. Some sort of trades like fabricating, like welding, the dirtier the roles that were maybe a bit more prevalent years ago, we're seeing a massive lacking. But that's not to say that it's not hurting the other industries too. I think, yes, I'm speaking to them constantly, but there's a lot going on in the automotive industry. I think over the last 6 months, that's been the biggest change I've probably seen. Not that I think that's a new issue, but that's definitely taken off, I think, in the last 6 months. People crying out for mechanics, panel beaters, spray painters, fitters, everything from top to bottom across the automotive industry is definitely sprang up. But we're still dealing with engineering, we're still speaking to data centers, people in the pharmaceutical industry, people across manufacturing, like you name it, we're probably still dealing with it. I'm yet to come up against anyone that says, no, there's no skill gap here. We're running as normal, no need for extra hires. And there's probably 100 different reasons as to why that's happening, right?
I think even just to touch on the automotive industry there, I think that's a really, really good one to talk about. We're so lucky that the department opened up the quota for those roles because I suppose we were struggling for so long with so many companies looking to fill those panel beaters, auto technicians, spray painters, and we couldn't fill those roles because there was no quota. Do you feel like that has massively helped us as a company, or?
I think it's a double-edged sword, really. I think obviously it's great that they opened up the quota, but I think what it's done is it's put the frighteners on a lot of people as well, knowing that there are certain rules that can come in place at any point that's holding other businesses back. The department has to make rules based on the economy as a whole, but for individual businesses that need the staff to be able to grow in the way that they're expected to, especially those with government-based contracts, struggle when they're put in a position where they think, well, I've got to act now because what if something happens further down the line? What if I've got my hand tied behind my back and 6 months later, but I've not got the need for the staff right now? So I think it puts a lot more tension on the industry than there needs to be. But I understand obviously that there's rules and reasons why they have to do that at the same time. But it definitely caused a lot of stress at the back end of last year. And the start of this year really as well. I know, as you say, the roles that they were looking for on a light vehicle basis, HGV mechanics were hit at the same time or just afterwards. And with lots of updates happening on legislation and other things at the start of the year as well, I know it pushed a lot of other things back. So we've been in catch-up mode for a while because there's been as you know yourself, a lot of clients that were waiting from October, November last year to try to get through the process that were held back 6 months.
Yeah.
That's changed their projects, that's changed their completion dates. So it's a juggling act, right, all the time.
And you're talking about not just the automotive industry. So how do you think that your clients are staying ahead? So we have a skills gap there. We know that's an issue. How are you helping your clients to maybe put a plan in place so that it's not an issue for them a year down the line when they need these staff? Do you think clients are doing enough to put that into force beforehand, or that's something obviously that we can help them with?
Yeah, I think, look, most businesses are trying to future-proof themselves all the time, right? There are some industries, some businesses that can do it a little bit easier than others, are able to see their projections over the next couple of years. You look at the likes of the construction industry, not so easy. You know, a lot of things happening with there is all reactionary. So when they've got projects that they might be getting, it's very hard for them to put a plan in place for 12 months down the line where they know, well, if I land this project next week, I know I need guys, but if I take guys too soon and I don't land that, I'm put in a position where I'm unable to sustain it. So I think I'm doing everything that we can with most of our clients now that have some level of protection or some sort of future-proofing that they can do. And I guess that's just about sensibly looking at timelines. It's very easy for most people to get wrapped up in what they're doing here and now. But bearing in mind that when you're looking at international work from anywhere, there are timelines outside of anyone's control, from work permit process, visa process, to getting guys deployed and on the ground. You know, it can take as little as 3 months, but we've seen it take 6 to 7 months. So I guess it's always sitting down and trying to make strategic partners with all of our clients and say, look, this is your need right now, that's great, but what we want to be able to do is be there for you in 12 months' time. So, you know, let's get this bit out of the way and then let's look at what your upcoming projects are. Let's try and put a few steps in the process now so that you can avoid an extra month, 2 months further on down the line, which, you know, 9 times out of 10 we can do. It gives us time to ensure that we've got the right staff in front of them, we've got the right candidates ready for selection, and they're ready in their minds too, right? Because you know yourself, we're not most people's number one priority, and as much as I'm sure you wish we were, it's not something that's on the front of people's minds all the time. So when they're thinking project work or they're thinking what's upcoming, we're normally the last thing that comes to people's mind, oh, we better get that sorted out. So trying to be involved with people now to smooth that out further down the line, I guess, is all we can do to try and help prevent issues further down the line.
And do you think we are classed as a short-term solution or a long-term solution? I suppose us as a strategic partner to our clients, but also our candidates. Do you think it's a short-term fix or a long-term fix?
I think traditionally the idea of what we do is seen as a short-term fix, and I think that probably creates a strange sort of mentality around what we do for a lot of people that are new to what we do. I would say we're certainly a long-term fix, and we're long-term partners for most of the people we work with. But I think when it comes to international hires, or probably recruitment on the whole, short-term fixes all people have traditionally ever wanted them for. You know, recruitment's a little bit of a dirty word across a lot of industries out there, and trying to veer away from the thought process of we've got the wrong mentality for it, or we're just a pest have to be dealt with at one particular time when we have to, and then be left alone again is, I guess, something that we've actively tried to change people's minds on. And that's about doing things differently, right? Our process is different to traditional recruitment. We're a staffing solutions provider at the end of the day, not a recruitment company.
And I know I asked the question if our clients see us as a short-term solution or a long-term solution. I really hope they see us as a long-term solution. I think even with my time in Aureol Global Connections, looking back on it now, any of the clients that I worked with in those first few months, they still have candidates with them. So maybe at the time they saw it as a short-term fix, but now it's become a long-term fix. They're renewing work permits, renewing certificates of sponsorship. So I hope that clients, maybe initially, they may see us as a short-term fix, but then they obviously realise how good the candidates are, how good this is working for them, and that they can make some plans based on the workforce that they have.
Yeah, I think we've changed a lot of people's minds. And I think, again, there's a stigma, isn't there, around international workers coming in, regardless of where they're from. There's a thought process of low skill level, filling a gap of potentially jobs that people don't want to do, but don't want to get paid for either, and kind of sitting in that niche. And I think more and more the people we speak to now have a real understanding that, no, these are highly skilled roles. where the candidates that are coming in are making a massive impact, not only to the business but to the economy as a whole. So they're not coming in to do sort of these smaller positions that could be filled anywhere, but actually something that they want long term. And if they can get the right candidates for it, brilliant. It's great for everyone, but it takes time to be able to turn people's perception on things like that. But I think it's always good to see that change and that shift in people's attitudes when it comes to that sort of thing anyway.
I think with any of the clients that I have spoken to, say after the candidates have arrived, one that comes to mind is a Northern Ireland based engineering company. And when we went up to see them, they said that the candidates had actually like changed the culture on the work floor, which I thought was just amazing. You know, the candidates came in, they were happy to be in work, they were, you know, saying hello to everyone, and they just kind of gave all of the other staff a bit of a positive uplift, which I think is amazing for us to hear that about the candidates. And it just proves how well they fit into most cultural workplaces.
Well, it's the cultural difference that, again, people just don't think of in the first place. You look at it just as a factual business decision, right? You need the person, you need the skill level, wherever they come from, and if they can do the job, then happy days. But anyone that has run their own business or has even worked within any business knows that the difference that one person can make to an attitude of entire culture. And when people want to be there, are working with positivity, great energy, you know, are doing long hours happily and want to be there and want to be part of a team, you know, and grateful for the opportunity is a big one on there as well. It radiates onto other people, right? So you know, I've heard very similar things from a lot of other companies as well. That the cultural impact is probably one of the biggest benefits that people have seen outside of what they expected, I guess.